Thank you, Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy, for taking the time to speak with me today. My name is Francois Paul. I work at the Parks Healthcare Facility.
Well, let me first just say thank you so much, Francois, for having me on today, and thank you to all the folks who are joining us on Facebook. It's a real honor to have an opportunity to talk to you. I have to say that, I'm particularly grateful for what your members do. You consist of healthcare workers across this state, this region, and you all are responsible for taking care of people when they're most vulnerable, and making sure that medical facilities and hospitals and other things run. So you do a wide range of activities within the medical space, and it just our access to medical facilities and care just wouldn't work without the hardworking, dedicated members that you have as part of the SEIU. So thank you and for all that you do.
Thank you also. We're gonna start with the first question.
Sure.
What it is about being an ex bring you the most joy?
Well, before I talk a little bit about what being a member of Congress brings me the most joy, I want to first kind of just say that, tell you a little bit about myself, because it sort of frames how I approach my job and what it is that I'm doing. But I'm an immigrant and a refugee who escaped with my family in the late 70s from communist Vietnam. We were rescued by a U.S. Navy ship and relocated to Virginia, where my father went to work at a power plant, and he was a part of the union there. And as somebody who didn't speak English very well, new to this country, it was the union that negotiated on his behalf for his salary so that he could care for and raise a family and ensure that he had benefits, which he ended up needing towards the end of his life. He was diagnosed with cancer, and we were a union family. We have a deep personal relationship with healthcare workers as a result of that, and so those are things that I never forget, and they sort of frame my job and my life. And so what I really enjoy the most out of being a member of Congress is my ability to help others, because I know it's so important for people to have a voice, whether that's within their own workplace or within this democracy. And I'm proud to say that our office has been able to help people navigate the federal bureaucracy and cut through red tape and receive the benefits that they've earned. We've also been pushing a legislative agenda that helps small businesses get access to capital, helps veterans transition into life after service, a whole host of issues that we get to work on behalf of our constituents, and that really is probably the best part of this job.
Yes. Okay. As a union of healthcare workers, what would you like to say for the two biggest challenges blocking your ability to provide universal access for healthcare in Florida?
As I mentioned, I know what it feels like when either yourself or someone you love is in need of healthcare. There's nothing you wouldn't do to make sure that that person got the access to care they needed and felt better. And so for me, it's deeply important and deeply personal that we have universal coverage, that everybody has access to healthcare, especially when they need it. And I think a couple of the obstacles today that stand in that way, I would start first with Florida's refusal to take Medicaid expansion. And that leaves a lot of people uncovered in this state. And so my hope is that the state government will reconsider its decision not to accept the Medicaid expansion and accept it so that we can ensure more people in the state are covered. And I think the second piece that is really problematic is that there's been a systematic effort to sabotage the existing healthcare system. We have a healthcare system that has Medicare, Medicaid, employer-based healthcare, and then the individual market. And there has been a partisan effort to dismantle the individual market. It creates a lot of instability in the market. What I'd like to see in this next Congress is for members of both parties to sort of put the partisan rhetoric aside and work together to stabilize the individual market and make stronger the healthcare system that we have to ensure that that nobody falls between the gaps of this three tiers system.
Okay, what are your thoughts about the ongoing attack on workers' right to collaborate or organization in the unit?
As I mentioned, my family was, my father was a part of the union. We're a union family. Unions have ensured that there were weekends and limited work weeks and safe conditions. So the legacy of unions has been to ensure that working conditions here in this great democracy are of the standard that we should be proud of. And I think that unions have a role, continue to have a role today. Unfortunately, what I see is that a couple things are undermining the union's role, and part of that, I'll just say that I don't think that it's a zero-sum game between business and workers. I think that we can have a system where businesses prosper and workers prosper. It's not a zero-sum game. But I think too often some business leaders are fearful of unions and seek to undermine unions' ability to collectively bargain on behalf of workers. And that's a dangerous thing. And so we have to kind of build greater understanding. I think we need to continue as elected officials to stand up for and to fight for the right of workers to collectively bargain and have a seat at the table to negotiate worker standards.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. What legislative issue are you working on right now?
Well, I believe that as a representative, I start by listening. And when I listen to my constituents, I hear a lot of concerns around jobs, security, and equality. And those are the areas that I tend to focus on. I think a couple things that are of interest to your members. When it comes to jobs, we need an economy that works for everyone. And that means well-paying jobs with good benefits. And so I'm a supporter of the $15 minimum wage. Nobody should have the dignity of a paycheck and have the indignity of not being able to care for their family or to live in poverty. And so I think we need to make steps in that direction. Additionally, I've been fighting for paid family leave. That's a really important piece. Nobody should have to decide between taking care of a family member or their job. I think it's important that we keep working on those issues and continue to build towards an economy that works for everyone.
That's great. Do you believe that the country is more divided than ever? Why do you think that?
So I certainly think that we're living in hyper-partisan times where the rhetoric doesn't live true to our American values. We are a democracy that is intended as a government by, for, and the people, right? And so allowing your average citizen a greater voice in the process, and also having elected officials who live up to the standard of the office that they hold. And that's what I try to do, is that there are times where we disagree. We can disagree, but we should be able to do that in a way that's civil. So I'm really proud to say that I've been named the most effective member of my freshman class, as well as the 7th most bipartisan member of all of Congress. And I think those two things go hand in hand. The idea that I can work with other people in a bipartisan way has enabled me to be the most effective member of Congress. And I think by leading by example and continuing to elect people who are willing to put people over politics, we'll be able to break through the inaction that we're seeing and break through some of the divisiveness that shadows over our politics today, our government today.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I enjoy coming here. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Francois. I really enjoyed the opportunity to speak with you and with your members, and I hope that everyone knows that our office door is always open. However we can be helpful, I hope that your members and you'll feel free to reach out to my office and let us know if there's things that we can do. Thank you.